Welcome to Spotlight. I'm your host, Amitha. Join me weekly as we talk to guests who will inspire us with their success stories and inspirational events. Well, do you have it in you to take the road less traveled, to materialize your passions and dreams? Well, our guest today has it in him, and he's making a positive impact with the multiple hats he wears, including entrepreneur, digital marketer, speaker, published author, and the founder of DesiFest, one of Canada's biggest celebrations of South Asian urban culture and beyond. It's my pleasure to welcome to our show Mr. Sathish Bala. Sathish, it's amazing to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And congratulations, it's 12th year for DesiFest, I understand.
12 years, yeah.
Nice.
Time flew.
So we'll get to that in a bit, but let's get to know you a bit more.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and how has your journey been thus far?
Yeah, I'm a classic immigrant story. You know, born in India, left to Singapore when I was 4. And then most of my memories started in Singapore. So sometimes when people are like, where are you from? My first instinct is like, Singapore. And then they're like, no, really, where are you from? I'm like, oh, shit, yeah. I'm from India. So from South, Chennai. And my parents moved here in the late 80s. And very quickly, I fell in love with Canada and the way they look at people that are not following the same path, for example, right? So, you know, I wasn't always the smartest academic kid, and I was very creative from a very early age. But, you know, being a South Indian family, you know, they didn't understand what creativity was. It was either you're smart or you're a troublemaker.
Yeah.
And it was only until we moved to Canada where troublemaker got redefined as creative and passionate and entrepreneur. And then I started believing in those things, and I was like, okay, so, you know, how can I now flourish in that? And so, you know, from a very early age, I've always been sort of building my own path through high school, then to university. I studied computer science, probably one of the only things my father and I agreed on. I was like, no engineering, no accounting, but I can live with computer science. And I really thought I was going to be a game developer because I was into video games back then. And then first day in Ryerson, I realized there's nothing to do with game design here. This is really hard mathematical stuff. I almost wanted to drop out, but I fell in love with technology and the impact of smart technology in the world. And, you know, every year I started getting more and more comfortable in becoming more creative and more outspoken. I got lucky by chance where third year university, there was an opening for student body president within computer science. And somebody was like, look, we've never had an Indian person run for this stuff. You know, why don't you try? And so that was my probably first stint in marketing and advertising, where I built a little campaign around, you know, voting for me, and I won with you know, a big vote. And that was my first sort of, you know, pulled into entrepreneurship, where all of a sudden I'm behind the scenes in the academic world. You know, I'm presenting to faculty, I'm presenting to the dean, I'm networking with the students, I'm communicating other things than just school and education. And I was naturally good at it. And I was like, okay, I've never explored this side. So that put me on this journey for entrepreneurship, whatever that meant, because I didn't know what it was called, other than every time I did something on my own, I was extremely scared, and then I did it anyways. And then learn a lot about myself, and that became an addictive cycle for me of how many different things can I try that will put a spotlight on my own self, you know, belief and self-value, and that was my journey into entrepreneurship.
Love it. So there were the challenges that usual like South Asian families pose on their children, but you didn't let go of that pull within you, and when you saw that first opportunity, you seized it and used it to your maximum. Yeah. Were there any challenges thereafter once you, you know, you knew which path you were taking? Were there any challenges thereafter from mainstream? Like, as you said, you were the first brown person to...
Well, the interesting thing is, you know, especially in Canada, the digital world is only about 10, 12 years old. And so prior to that, the stereotypical vision of a South Indian is you're some IT guy from India. Either you're here on some sort of a work visa, or you represent a company back home. And so, I was building a creative agency doing branding and marketing and advertising. Yes, we were a technical team, but really we're a creative agency. And so most of the time, when there was another person in the room that wasn't South Indian, most people by default thought they were the owners or they were the creative folks. And so it took a while for me to sort of get into the industry and start to educate people that, not all of us are technical folks. There are South Indians that are creative, South Indians that are, artistic, South Indians that are, strategic. And so this blanket stereotype was a big issue, especially in the early days of my first few companies. And it didn't give us much room to play in bigger stuff because we were always pigeonholed into like, go build a software or go build a website. And I really wanted to be the creative thinker and really help brands, globally expand their customer base. And so that was one of the biggest hurdles. But, that was the outward hurdle. But behind the scenes, it was the same at home because, from whether it's my parents or their friends or other people, there was this notion to like, get a real job.
Yeah.
I know it's fun and you're doing this stuff on your own, but you have a computer science degree. When are you going to get a real job? Even till now, I think my mom still thinks I run a, hardware repair store because I still get old aunties calling me help with like Windows and PCs. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But there's this stereotypical vision that, our community is very much academic and not much creativity. And so that was a lot of hurdle in the early days. But like I tell anybody, when you do good work and there's quality work, eventually that noise goes away.
Very true, and that's exactly what you've done. You're such a trailblazer, trendsetter, inspiration with everything that you've accomplished. So we want to touch upon that, including DesiFest. But let's take a short break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Spotlight. We are talking to the recipient of the Young Entrepreneur Award in 2004 by the Tamil Chamber of Commerce, and also the recipient of the Hottest Startup by Profit 50 in 2004. It's Mr. Sathish Bala. So inspirational to hear your story where, again, you were thinking outside the box with all the challenges you had to face, and you're here where you're today with such amazing portfolio behind you and so many more projects to look forward to. Let's first of all start up with DesiFest, the 12th year. Once again, congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, so DesiFest is a two-sided coin. So one side, we're a free outdoor music festival, and our vision was to create a platform where, regardless of what culture, what language, what background you're from, we can all come together at the square to celebrate just being South Asian and in Canada. When I got into the scene, I felt like a lot of the events that were happening had an undertone of culture or religion based on where you're from. And because, as I said, born in India, grew up in Singapore, landed in Scarborough, while I was cultural, I never fully understood the culture. And so it was hard for me to go to any of these events and feel at home because I was so integrated already. So we thought, well, why don't we create an atmosphere? Desi in Sanskrit just means people. There's no color, religion, origin behind it. And what if we create an atmosphere where whether you're in a mixed relationship, whether you're from India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, whether you speak English, Tamil, Gujarati, whatever it is, let's just celebrate being Desis, and especially in Canada. So that was one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is young people have taken the culture and remixed it to themselves. Our parents did a great job of bringing us here, which is a great golden ticket. Because this is the best place to live in. But at the same time, they have to hand over the culture to the young generation and say, okay, here's the ethics and beliefs of the culture, but now you take it and make your own. And so a lot of the music that the kids were creating in the last 8 to 10 years reflected their struggles growing up in Canada, being a mixed generation. There was no outlet. If it wasn't Bollywood, we weren't booking them. So we felt like there was a space that needed to be created for this energy to express itself. If not, it's going to be anger and implosion versus, sharing and awesomeness.
Very well said, yes.
And so we created the second side, which is to celebrate this group of people that weren't fitting in. And, I wasn't fitting in, so I felt really connected to that community. And so that's what DesiFest stands for, At our core, we want to use music as a way to eliminate stereotypes, gender bias, cultural biases that hinder young people in our community to live their dreams.
Very well said, and we really need that these days. There's a lot of negative energy that the youth can get pulled towards.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a good platform, a good outlet. And the concert is, I guess, just one side of it, but it sounds like it's a whole.
The concert is a reflection of the values, right?
Yes.
If I wasn't a DJ when I was growing up, if I was a painter, this festival would have been something different. Either way, we would have had some variation of a DesiFest because I felt like I needed to help solve a small problem. And when we let the young people speak, and we actually listen to them, they have tons of great insights on problems that they can solve that me at my age can't do it anymore.
Wow.
And so having a platform for them to be who they are is really important. And the second thing I tell parents all the time is, there's a survival mode that makes us into, immigrants that want to live and work and just focus on living. But we can't do that at the expense of our art and music and poetry.
Love it.
Nobody ever remembers the bridge we built. We remember the stories and the songs and the poems that we write and the paintings we enjoy.
They stay with you forever.
Right. And
yes.
we go to India for these inspirational meditation weeks and stuff. But it's the same content that could be produced here.
It's right here,
and we need
right
to give
in our
them an outlet.
backyard. So tell us a little bit about some of the memorable moments from prior DesiFest.
Yeah, so every single year, man, there's a storyline that gets baked into it. Whether it's having like an Apache Indian come perform in our show, whether it's knowing that both of my kids are born into the festival, and they've been on stage with me from the day that they're born, knowing that it's a family group that works on it together. Knowing that every artist that's ever been on our stage has become a really good advocate for the next generation and giving each other opportunities. Knowing that from year one, we've supported over 300 artists across the country. We've paid out $2 to $3 million in fees and expenses to support the community. We've got a great sponsor network that believes in why we do it.
Nice.
Which is really important.
That's why it's also a free concert.
Exactly, because money is the easiest excuse to have a hurdle. Oh, I can't go, I can't afford it. Oh, it's ticketed. I don't know who's on the lineup. This way, we're like, drop your stereotypical thinking, drop your biases. If you are at DesiFest, even for 1 hour, you'll experience enough varieties that you'll start to question your belief system. And if we can poke a hole in something that you thought was really true, then what other things can we enlighten you on?
Whoa, that's amazing. Well, I have been at prior DesiFest, and it's like the whole atmosphere is so family-oriented, enjoying music, letting go of all the barriers, the restrictions of man-made society. So I love going to it every year. What can we expect this year? I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so this year is really interesting because we've always wanted to be a global showcase. Whether it's funding or whether it's talent, it's always been a challenge. But this year we've got artists from UK, India, Pakistan, all across Canada, West Indies, and it's total Desi-inspired music.
Nice.
And we have a blend from Bollywood all the way up to urban hip-hop.
Nice.
And it's all inspired by South Asian undertone. And so for us, this is the first year where we're truly a global showcase. I'm really proud of the team for helping us get here. And that's what we want to represent. We want to represent this idea that wherever you are in the world, music unites all of us.
Yes.
And for that 3.5, 4-minute length of a song, it doesn't matter, where you're from, what your gender is, what your biases are, because we're just one people listening to the same content. And I heard a quote a couple of days ago that, we don't listen to music, we react to music. Because you never really listen to it. It's a reactionary tool.
True.
When you're low, you find the song to bring you up. When you're high, you find the song to get you even higher. And so if music is a reaction, then we feel like DesiFest has been a reaction to a culture that didn't have a voice.
Wow. profound. So where can we find more information? It's happening.
Follow you, first of all.
Follow me.
You're a great social ambassador for us. But DesiFest.ca has got all the information. You can Google us, and we're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And we encourage everybody to come experience it, even if you can come for an hour. We're right on the subway line. Yonge and Dundas Square is beautiful.
Beautiful
as
day.
a venue,
it's going to be,
right?
yeah.
And to be in the heart of the city and celebrating whatever your personal version of your culture is, it's a really important step because it's not just about us anymore. It's about the next generation. And we don't have any tools to hand down culture yet. But this is one way to go. Here's a version of us.
Yes, so it's happening on June 2nd at Yonge and Dundas Square, and it's a free concert. Come out with your family and friends and enjoy it. Well, I'm looking forward to it. But there's more to know about Mr. Sathish Bala beyond DesiFest. So let's find out more. But before that, it's time for a short break. Welcome back to Spotlight. We are talking to an amazing entrepreneur who was the recipient of the recent Ryerson Alumni Award. It's Mr. Sathish Bala. So this is great. DesiFest is happening on June 2nd at Yonge and Dundas Square in its 12th year.
Yes.
But we know you're beyond DesiFest, you do so much other stuff as well. So highlight some of those for us.
Sure. So as you mentioned, the award, that was an awesome, award because, as I said, I've always been concerned about my academic challenges in life. Always been shy about, not being the smart kid. And so being back at Ryerson, being a mentor with the zones and helping other startups build their own businesses and being recognized as an alumni was a really awesome experience. And having my mom at the reception was great.
Nice.
So that was really good. I had an agency that I sold in 2016. And so, I'm sort of looking at what are all the different things that me and my network that we built over the last 10 years do to help other young entrepreneurs. And as we were chatting, offline, so many times we create these hurdles in our head, and they're all made up by us, right? In today's digital world, you can reach anybody, you can negotiate globally, you can work longer sitting in your bedroom. Like, there's no real hurdles anymore like there were when I was growing up. So, I believe almost anybody who's got an idea for success, whether you have a 9-to-5 job or you want to do a side hustle on the side, whatever it is, anything that you think you can't do is in your head. And 9 out of 10 times is the self-imposed labels that we've got. I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, I'm a scientist, I'm not a biz dev guy, I'm a biz dev. It doesn't matter, those are just labels. And I grew up you're dumb, you're not smart, you're gonna be a blue collar, not gonna be anything useful in life. And that was my labels for the first 14 years.
Sad, but true. Yeah.
Right? But that was just given by people. And then I chose at 15 to change it to, I wanna be a motivator, I wanna be an entrepreneur, I wanna be a businessman, I wanna be a musician.
Nice.
And that's how people look at me today. But I was the same guy. It just decided what I want to do in life. And so, I think what I want to do, hopefully, for the rest of my career, is to find ways to help people do that, whether it's through DesiFest, whether it's through my not-for-profit work under UMA Foundation, whether it's the mentoring I'm doing through Ryerson. And God's been good. As a family, we're taken care of. My wife is, behind the scenes at DesiFest and runs the project.
The better half.
Yeah, so I literally get to show up on stage and do what I do. We've got a fantastic team behind us that does all the little pieces that count at the end of the day. So I've been blessed to have a great support team.
Nice.
And I would love to take the support team and the address books and the insights and try to help as many young South Asian entrepreneurs as possible live their dreams. And, this is 2018 and we still have very few South Asian entrepreneurs that we can celebrate. True. And we're not talking about guys that are taking over their parents' businesses. And I know they hate when I say that.
Yeah.
It's cool, like you're taking over the family business.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the young person who's staying up all night trying to build a unique business with very little support. And so, if your viewers are out there watching, find me on social, find me on websites and email, because that's the kind of help that we want to be able to offer in the next 8 to 10 years. And it'd be great if, 5 years from now we reconnect and now we talk about the 5 big startups that are Indian owned that came out of Toronto, or the 3 other Desi festivals that have started, or the unplugged nights that are in the city, or the record label that got launched, or the TV radio programs that have evolved. Like, there's so much gap. And I think your viewers and the young people have the passion to fill the gap. And all we could do is help them.
But we are lucky to have leaders like you, role models like you. So we are glad you went from Chennai to Singapore to Scarborough. And, you are actually inspiring all of us here and with everything that you do. And we need those leaders like you. It's like that hurdles that you went through. A lot of us go through it, but we don't know where to turn to. I mean, people like yourself, amazing, you're blessed, you have it within you, that passion that comes through and you go for it. But some of us then, listen to the outside world and get bogged down by it and then cut off our passion. So we are grateful for inspirational role models like you to, lead us and to guide us as well. So it's amazing.
And equally, I was inspired by a bunch of people before me to get to where I are. So it's always a cycle. It's just, people like myself and you and other people, we need to open our doors up, even though it could be infringing and imposing. But that's our duty as immigrants that are passing on success stories.
Well said.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, if we are not open, then the cycle will continue. And I think we have a chance in the next 8 to 10 years to really build a strong South Asian community across all of these cycles, from business to arts to entrepreneurship to everything else that we aspire to be.
Very well said. Wow, you do so much. There's so much on your plate. I have to wonder, do you have any time for yourself? I know family is in the picture as a part of every project you do, but just away from projects, away from helping others.
I never look at it as a burden because I just love everything I do.
Nice.
So it's never been about, I'm doing this and I got to take a time off and do this.
Nice.
For me, it's always been an ebbs and flow of what captures my interests. When I was building the agency, I was doing 20 hours of that. Once I sold it, I'm a lot more home now. My wife probably hates it. And I've got passions that take me up and down. So I think, in today's world, we got to live based on passion and decide what sacrifices we're willing to make, because we get one shot at chasing whatever the dream is.
Nice. Well said.
Right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's never about turning off. It's about knowing where my attention needs to be and when. And then if I'm with the kids, I'm with the kids. When I'm out on a date night with my wife, we're on date night.
Nice.
When I'm working, I'm 100% working.
Nice. So it's about living in the moment, and it's like they say, when you do what you're passionate about, it's not work.
Yeah.
It's life.
And why would you want to do anything else? We don't get to reset time. We don't get to go, now that I figured out what I want to do for the first 40 years, let me restart, right? And, the minute we're born, we're dead. That's just the nature of life. And so whatever time we have in between, when we understand that philosophy, we take our time more seriously. And then why would you want to do anything other than what you're passionate about?
Nice. So many profound words of wisdom today, Sathish.
Quotable.
Thank you so much. Quote unquote, quote unquote. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us. I mean, about everything, your life journey that has inspired us. And we wish you all the best for DesiFest this year.
And there should be no excuses. We're a 12-hour show. So I don't care if you're busy in the morning, come in the afternoon.
Yes. So we are going to be there, and we wish you all the best, and every best to your team as well. Thank you. Thank you. So that was Mr. Sathish Bala, who has inspired us to go after what speaks to us. So let's be there at Young and Dada Square on June 2nd for DesiFest 2018. Well, that's a wrap for this week's show. Thank you for watching us. Continue to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and write to us at spotlight@ethnicchannels.com. Until next week, this is Amitha signing off, encouraging you to support all our entrepreneurs and support yourselves towards positive change in the world.